Okay. Greetings, YouTube. This is the Garage Autonomist, and this is yet another live stream that will most likely not get me into the social club of the YouTube Marxists or allow me to play in their little reindeer games as if I give a fuck. I want to say what's up to everybody. And I want to thank everyone for their positive uh, what's the difference between top chat and live chat? I have no idea. No earthly idea. I want to give a shout out to everyone's positive uh what's the word I'm looking for? Words, so to speak, with my interview with my daughter Tigress when she was here. That's not her real name, of course. When she was here on the channel. Hey, what's up, Danini? I know that some of you are like, hey, I wanted to actually go back and listen to it again. The only reason why I took it down was because she felt she wanted me to edit it. She wanted me to fix some of the things. She listened to herself and she was like, Daddy, I need you to fix some of the things in here. And I was like what? And so she didn't feel like she was sounding necessarily stupid. She just felt like she really hated when she was sort of, I was like, it's your first time doing a live show. Like, don't worry about all that. But, she just wanted me to go ahead and edit it. So I'm going to edit it and it will be reposted. What's up, Jenny? Damn, that's great to see you here. Hope everything's going good. But so tonight it's an open mic in that I'm going to be just bringing up different kind of topics. Hopefully, if anyone wants to join in, I'm going to see if I can get the link working again. I have no idea why it didn't work in the open mic that I had the week before the last time I did this. But hopefully it'll work. I have some topics, but they're not necessarily written in stone for tonight. So if anyone has anything that they want me to talk about or they want to talk about, we're open to that. That's hence open mic. But a couple of things that's been on my mind are exactly the kinds of things that this channel likes to delve into, or I like to think, be outside the fucking box about. And it's called rejecting mama's pot is the thing that's been on my brain. Uh, when I'm doing work, because it's been at my job, I've been doing some it's not labor intensive in a physical way, because nothing I do at my job is physical, not really, other than me walking around and checking in on things. But for the most part, this is a sort of like a design and data situation at work. So I kind of need some background noise. And instead of it being music, because I get distracted if the music is really good and all I listen to is good music, as some of you may have might agree, some of you may disagree based on the intros to some of my videos. Sometimes I get a little too distracted and I might get too spacey listening to my music. So I like to listen to things like TV shows without me watching them. I just basically bring up the tab and that kind of thing. I got bored and pretty much got bored with, not bored, but I pretty much rewatched all the stuff I wanted to rewatch on HBO. So I've decided to, hey, what's up, Peter Butterfly Spirit? So I decided to go back to Netflix and watch some Netflix shows. And one of the shows I was really happy to see, Chef David Chang, for some of you who may or may not know. Okay, good. Strange Fruit, what's up? Strange Fruit has a pretty good has a interesting question, so we're gonna get to that. So like I was saying, now in case you don't know who David Chang is a pretty famous chef here in New York City and also on television. He's one of Anthony Bourdain's buddies, and he was featured in one of Anthony Bourdain's produced shows that he does on PBS, which is called Mind of a Chef. And now David Chang has his own Netflix show called Ugly Delicious. If you have Netflix, I strongly suggest, and if you're a food freak like me, I think most people who work in the restaurant business or well, I don't work in restaurant anymore, but when I was a teenager, I was. And I know I owe you guys of the video series that I was talking about doing last spring. But when I was, an actual professional cook, but that, of course, all comes from being at home. Everyone in my family cooks. All of my relatives, mostly the women did, but I have like one uncle who's a really good cook, a great uncle of mine. He's not really a direct uncle, but that's kind of hard to explain. Anyway, the point here is that I come from a family of cooks, of kitchen geniuses. So, it wasn't a big deal for me as a teenager to go and work professionally in a kitchen. So, anyway, I regard chefs in the way that some people regard keep up on athletes. And so David Chang, anyway, he has a show called Ugly Delicious. It's really not that great of a show because he kind of follows up with Strange Cook says loves Strange Fruit says loves cooking, not into eating. All right. Let's see here. Pure Butterfly Spirit says you would like Mikey Chen channel. He travels the world being a foodie. Oh, that's interesting, Pure Butterfly Spirit. I never heard of Mikey Chen. I'll look him up. Strange Fruit says I take classes when I am in different countries. Oh, cool. I like to stay thin. Oh, I get it. Yeah, well. So anyway, like I was saying, and let me just go ahead and get to the point and not ramble on so much. David Chen's show covers the basic, at least this season, because it looks like he's going to get a second season. It's not out yet, but Netflix has it labeled as season 1 of this show. Again, it's called Ugly Delicious, and he goes over the same themes pretty much in every episode. The thing about people's interconnectedness to food, or people's connection to food through their culture or through their family, that kind of thing, right? So David Chang, um, there was an episode called Home Cooking, which is actually my favorite episode on the show. And I kind of wish that they actually used that episode as the last episode of the season, but whatever. And he was going back home to his mother, who lives in the South. He comes from a family of immigrant Korean family, and they had immigrated to the United States, but they lived in the South. So as you can imagine, he had a very, very interesting or unique upbringing, uh, because he spent most of his youth wanting to assimilate and fit in. So he wasn't really trying to be about things like uh, what's the I can't believe I'm forgetting. The Korean fermented vegetables. I love it so much, but I can't think of the word right now. Um, but he wasn't trying to be about that. He was growing up with white kids who were eating Wonder Bread and fucking Twinkies and Taco Bell and shit. And he wanted that. He wanted to be about that. Then when he actually became an actual chef, he opened Momofuku's here in New York. Kimchi. There you go. Thank you, Strange Fruit. Kimchi. And he opened Mumafuko's here in New York, and it's a noodle shop, but it was not anywhere close to Korean. It was very much Japanese, but of course he did a lot of bunch of fusion things and trendy stuff. Um, so anyway, my point here is that I was thinking about that because he was saying, I didn't want to have anything to do with Korean food when I first started my career. Like some people do, they if they come from a certain culture or background, they figure, hey, I'm gonna capitalize on that if I'm a chef and open my restaurant and try to bring my thing. But he wasn't about that. Matter of fact, and I know he wasn't because he's the one that likes to do things like make these sort of Asian fusion tacos and things like that. Um, but he didn't want to have anything to do that much with Korean. But now he's at a place where he is. He's cooking his mother's food at home, and now he's, when they went back to the South to his mother's house, for Thanksgiving, he was like making all the stuff that she used to make. And it's funny because I myself am not at that place of wanting to cook my mother's food. My wife, when we first started dating, and I had invited her to my mother's house for our first, it was like Thanksgiving when we were really barely an item. But my mother was like, "No, I want you to invite her, to the house for Thanksgiving," and I did. And my wife fell in love with my mother's greens. She loved her, and my wife, of course, has always been familiar with African American cooking because, well, I'm not really going to get into her business, but she knows it very well. It's not like she doesn't. She hasn't grown up with it. She has, but she was loved my mother's cooking. And because she knows I can cook, so she's like, why don't you ever cook this, years later, like, or rather currently. She's like, well, I really wish you would cook your mother's candied yams for Thanksgiving. I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that. I really wish you would cook your mother's greens for Thanksgiving. Nah. What about special dinner? Nah. I mean, like, I'm done. Like, you couldn't get me to eat a plate of soul food in any way, shape, or form if you put a gun to my head. It's not that I hate the food. I'm very proud of the food that Black people have cooked for years, for generations. It's not all bastardized. It's not all slave food. The more I had learned and was reading up on West African cuisine, you can definitely see the connection between African Americans, what we've been cooking in terms of sweet potato and yam and greens and okra and certain dishes and the way we fry fish, all of that shit we definitely brought over with us from West Africa, where Black people are from. I have to say that because these YouTube 99-cent store pro blacks on YouTube have some very weird and retarded and interesting viewpoints. One being that Black people are not from Africa. Don't get me started. And maybe I'm going to talk about that next. Big J, yeah, Big J loved that because when I said 99-cent store pro black, because I used that in his chat this morning when I was on the train, when I was describing YouTuber China Fox. Anyway, my point here is that have any of you guys have ever gone through that phase? Like maybe you, like for instance, Pure Butterfly Spirit is Native American. Um, has she ever gone through that phase of like, if I ever see or have to make a batch of fry bread, I'll kill myself. Which by the way, I love Navajo fry bread. I've actually tried making it once. It was really good. Turned out really good. I loved it. Um, Let me read this. But anyway, that's my question to y'all. You can either get around to answering that question if you want. I'm just telling you, who knows? Maybe in about another 10, 15 years, I'll actually start cooking that kind of food again in my house. But no, I'm good with what I cook now. which is a mix of everything. If I feel like cooking Italian style, North Italian style, Greek, whatever, I do that. Zanini says, I don't know what I am and I don't care. Okay. Strange Fruit says, I am Aboriginal, African, and white. Got you. Um, I'm going backwards. Strange Fruit says, I love New Orleans food. Yep, me too. Some black folks from the South are not from Africa. I mean, do you mean, Strange Fruit, that black people in the South, are you referring to the ones who actually are Caribbean immigrants? You are correct. But we all know where the Caribbean black folks are from. Are you referring to the black people who are actual African immigrants? I would agree. Let me see here. Pure Blood Fire Spirit says my DNA test says that I have West African blood as well as Sub-Saharan African. Very good. Big J Triple X laughed at my 99-cent store pro Africa, pro blacks. Yep. Strange Fruit says, I cannot do street food, not even in the US. I just don't like street food that much, Strange Fruit, because it's just trendy now. It's trendy to like it. It's like I can't deal. Strange Fruit says, but again, you have to be careful where you eat, or you will have the shits for days. That's true. Strange Fruit says, I love Burmese food. I haven't tried Burmese. I did have a friend, a guy by the name of Jane Kine. I knew him back in Houston, and he was from Burma. I just remember him. I went to his house once. He did a New Year's Eve party at his house, and he invited me and a couple of other activists. We all went over there, a bunch of leftists. It was sort of like an overnight thing, and we went over there. And I think the only thing that he cooked from his, culture or his background was there was like a braised chicken in a clay pot, but he used a lot of fish sauce in it. It was good. It was tasty. Strange Fruit says, I don't like Cambodian food at all. I've tried it once. In Cambodia, unless you are eating at a hotel, you really don't know what you're getting. Strange Fruit, you're very interesting. You sound like a very well traveled person. I would sure like to hear more of your stories. Um, I haven't looked in on your channel. I don't know if you make content yet, but I hope you do. Um, and Strange Fruit, last thing from the top I'll read is Strange Fruit says, I make fried chicken and kimchi salad. That sounds damn good. Strange Fruit, is that the Korean style fried chicken? Which I love. It's really, really tasty. So Danini says, I cook and eat anything. Yep, that's me. I'm trying to see if tomorrow night we are going to be childless. Both of our kids are going to be not here Friday night. So I'm going to see if I can convince my wife for us to go to Uncle Nick's. Uncle Nick's is this Greek place that I love a lot. So, but we'll probably try something even different than that since we've been to Uncle Nick's many times. Let's see here. Pure Butterfly Spirit says fry bread has a story, and that when food was given to the natives, the flour had bugs in it. So the reason they fried the bread is to kill the bugs. Oh, that's interesting. Thank you for sharing that, Pure Butterfly Spirit. I had never known about that. I hadn't even heard of that. Every goddamn food, it seems, or cuisine has some stories behind it. Pure Butterfly Spirit says wild rice recipes come from Native Americans. That's true. That's true. I knew about that. Strange Fruit says no content. The manosphere hates me. I got you. Strange Fruit says, I did a fusion Korean Black American style chicken with cayenne pepper. That sounds like the kind of thing I would make. Strange Fruit says, a top of the salad, a top with avocados and small red potatoes. Then that sounds really good. All right, cool. All right, so I'm caught up in the chat. So, like I said, it's not like I hate, I definitely don't hate African American cuisine. And, there's some things I'll never eat, but, I can't get into the pig's feet. And to me, that's not really African American necessarily. That's just what African slaves in America started cooking. But no, I'm not. No. And believe me, I like a pig, but I'm not down with the trotters and all that shit. I can't eat that shit. Chitlins, no. Hell no. Hell no. Um, Everything else I like, but like I said, I can't, I don't need it now. I don't like it. And some of it is health concerns too, but it's kind of trendy up here in New York that a lot of people are cooking soul food, like, but they're making it like super healthy. Elm City, what's up? Elm City, what's up? Um, People of Our Spirit says that Strange Fruit, you sound like the person to go to different ethnic restaurants and eat with. Yeah, I agree. I would love to eat with Strange Fruit too. Strange Fruit says I love baked potatoes and child corn. Oh, you mean chilled corn? I think. Strange Fruit says I love to travel pure blood for spirit, and I'm a foodie. All right. Danini says I use pig feet for flavor only. It's full of sodium. Yep, that's true. I mean, the thing is, Danini, I love collagen. I definitely love collagen that comes out of both cow's foot and pig's feet and the oxtail. It's something. I mean that shit makes anything taste good. So I'm down with you on that, and that's exactly what that is. The fat and the collagen is straight flavor sex. I love it. But Pure Blood Flesh Spirit, yes, that's true. I know this about Pure Blood Flesh Spirit. She does not eat pork or beef. I know this. Um, and that's another thing is because since July I haven't really been eating meat or pork either, and dairy. But I think I've had enough of trying to be vegan. It's starting to. I don't know. I'm getting bored with it. I think. Again, I respect vegans. I will always respect vegans, but it was a nice little interlude. So I'm thinking I'm gonna see if I can try to hold out for another month or so. But I do know that I think come summer, I'm gonna be back to eating meat. Strange Fruit says I buy my spices in the USA and the UK and Asia, and I can cook a meal from each country that I visit. That's cool. Strange Fruit says, I won't eat snake or blood. That's interesting. I've had frog legs. I don't believe I've had snake. I've definitely had alligator. Danini says frogs are good. Yeah, I mean, I like frogs. It's just a little too bony, like a little too like. I mean, I know if you get the really good ones, like the big bullfrogs, like that's going to be a lot more meat on them. But uh, I don't know. It was okay. I still felt like I was just eating chicken, so I wasn't too impressed with frogs. I was far more impressed with alligator. I mean, that's like literally like eating a mix between shrimp and lobster. I loved it. Wait, who said something about oxtail? I think I missed that. Elm City. I love oxtail. Yep. Me too, Elm City. And Elm City says, I'm not a fan of the pig in most cases. Yeah, most people aren't. Angela. Hello, Angela. I have a degree in hospitality. Was an executive chef for years. I'm a food snob, but I love to see people expanding their palate. That is very interesting, Angela, and welcome. Um, you got to explain to me a little bit about what a degree in hospitality is. Is that like where you learn how to run restaurants and hotels and stuff? Um, Danini says frog legs taste more like rabbit. Now, I've had rabbit, and you're right. I think the consistency of the meat is definitely like rabbit, and rabbit is a lot like frog's legs. So Danini's correct about that. Pure Blood Fly Spirit says my family from Missouri. They eat frogs' legs, crawdads. That's crawfish. Well, it's funny. When I was little, we called crawfish crawdads, but when we moved to Texas, we called crawdads crawfish. So to this day, I just use the word crawfish. But yeah, and somebody had asked me a while back. I think it was one of my relatives on Facebook. She asked me, "Do you remember crawdads?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." And she said, well, because her son, who's my cousin, uh, also had lived in the South. He also actually lived in Houston, which is where I used to live. And she said to me, "Well, which one do you like better? Do you like the crawdads here in the Midwest in Missouri, or do you like crawfish in the South?" Or well, what she said, crawdads in the South, and I said, I do remember the crawfish in Missouri being a lot more sweeter. I think that's because it's just a different in the climate and what they ate. But I'm just used to the way we crawfish are in the South, and also they don't really use boil in Missouri. We would just cook them or steam them and season them any old kind of way we wanted to. But once we moved to the South, I feel like they know what to do with crawfish down there, and the crawfish boil is the shit. So that's what I'm all about. So I'm all about the southern crawfish. Danini says alligator meat have a natural spice to it. It's really good. Yeah. I like any kind of meat that I don't have to season that much. I purposefully don't uh, season my fish a lot. I don't over season fish. Uh, and I'm gonna have only way I'm ever gonna eat alligator again is if I visit the South. Uh, Okay, Pure Butterfly Spirit and Danini says hello to Angela. Angela says yes, exactly. I think she was saying yes, exactly to my question about hospitality degree. That's interesting. My youngest daughter asked me about a year ago, would I ever return to, or would I ever want to return to being a cook? I told her, hell no. Dealing with customers, dealing with waitresses, hell no. Then she asked me, well, would I ever open my own restaurant? I said, well, not here in New York City. That's for fucking sure. That's a surefire way of getting poor. It's just one of those risks. It's a business that's one of the biggest risks ever. Doesn't matter really what city you live in. But if would I ever do that again? I mean, I liked cooking. I liked cooking professionally. I did it, like I said, I was a teenager all the way into my early, well, until I was 22, 22 or 23. Uh, let's see here. But yeah, I mean, I think that the whole hospitality degree thing sounds really interesting. I think if I had to do it all over again, I would probably go the route of going to school, and I probably would think more in terms of trying to be a restaurant, of being a restaurant owner rather than being a cook or a chef. But whatever. So, Pure Blood Flesh Spirit says no boils. They just like to fry them. That's interesting. I don't remember frying. When my great grandmother used to make them, the crawfish in Kansas City, Missouri. Penny Proud, hey Penny Proud, welcome. She says, I tried crawfish last year for the first time in my life at a restaurant, and it was gross. I returned to my carbs and my shrimp. Danini says, oh no, you need the right boil spice, which is true. I agree, to bring out the flavor in crawfish. I like the dry. I like the dry style of crawfish boil, and then I like the straight up liquid. Both of those are great to use. Uh, Penny Proud says she likes crab. Pure Butterflies is saying hello to Penny. Penny Proud says hi, Danini. Uh, Pure Butterfly Spirit says I love to cook and to bake. And okay, so Angela says cooking is very stressful. Men dominate the kitchen, which is very true. So I struggled at the beginning of my career with the ego. With the ego in the kitchen, I was the regional executive chef. Wow. For DBL by Hilton. Double? I don't know. By Hilton for almost 10 years. And then Angela says, I recently put my coat up. Ah, okay, right. The white coat. And open a staffing business for hospitality service. That's smart. Yeah, the men what was it? Somebody said something that was really the men. It's funny, when we think about men cooking, we're totally okay with men cooking professionally. But we also think that if anyone does all the cooking, it should be the women. In terms of our current culture. But and when women do try to get into the professional world of cooking, they go through a whole bunch of shit. And I understand that because as a man of color, men of color go through a whole bunch of shit. They put up with a whole bunch of racism. They put up with a whole bunch of assumptions that we're not going to work as fast or work as hard. When I was a teenager, and I have to admit, my coworkers who were mostly all Mexican and Central American used to run rings around me when I first started. But and they will put you through the ringer. They will assume you're going to be lazy, you're going to be slow, whatever. But I was that type of person, as I still am, who will knock myself out trying to prove you wrong about me. And that's what I did. So, but shit, I couldn't move at the speed in a kitchen that I used to move when I was a teenager back then. I'd have a fucking heart attack trying to keep up with my coworkers the way I used to. Let's see here. Penny Proud says, no. Pure Butterfly Spirit says, I love Emerald Lagasse. I'm glad you do, Penny. Pure Butterfly Spirit. I'm not a fan. But I mean, I respect him, but yeah, yeah. Penny Proud says this guy was a great cook and clean and brought my Mountain Dews. If he had a career, he would be perfect for me. He was a great cook at his place. Penny is down for a cooking man. Then she says, "Wow, Angela, yeah, I think Angela's life, strange fruit. There's a lot of people in this chat room who have very interesting lives." Strange Fruit says F&B staffing company training too. Pure Butterfly Spirit says me too, Penny. I would take I would take an Emerald Lagasse clone. Strange Fruit says, Angela, you do, do you do international training or can it be remote? Needed in Cameroon beach area. Huh. Angela says, yes, I train bartenders, servers, cooks. I provide certification for safe serving as well. Wow, that's interesting. Strange Fruit says, I love Emerald. He's cool, but a bit of an alcoholic. Well, a little bit of a secret here, Strange Fruit, or maybe it's not so much of a secret, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I know exactly where the drinking comes from. For most kitchen staff, I've noticed this because actually when I finally left the food service industry, and then I went into the labor fabrication plant where I became a painter. We were painting. Uh, we were doing primer paint on uh, side tool boxes and utilities. Believe me, I've done crazier jumps than that because I left that and went into technology after that. But anyway, my point here is that one thing I've noticed about both cooks, line cooks, and line painters, I think the pace of having to work that kind of job all the time at the end of the day, I think there's this thing where your body and your brain is screaming to be sedated immediately. And I guess, I mean, short of a hit of heroin, I guess the next best thing would have to be some alcohol. So I think that's the reason why. Plus, I know that Emerald Lagasse went through a lot of crazy financial struggles because it's big, because everyone, doesn't believe it. But I think he's had at least one or two bankruptcies, even post Food Network or Food Channel fame. Like when he opened up some of these bigger restaurants and he went to Vegas and all that shit, these things caused him some major financial ruin. So I'm pretty sure some of his drinking came from that as well. Okay, cool. So Strange Fruit and Angela are looking at networking. That's cool. I'm glad I was the catalyst for that. I'm going to take credit. Pure Butterfly Spirit says, didn't know he was an alcoholic. Can't do a druggy, man. No, they over here talking about Emerald or an alcoholic man, right? Uh, let's see here. All right, cool. So that's all I really wanted to say. I love that we're actually going into food and talking about food and shit at this point. Like I said, I had little other things to talk about, but they're not really that big. Um, Pure Butterfly Spirit says he still has a restaurant here in Vegas. They serve excellent food. Best lobster mac and cheese I ever tasted. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I know that's what they all do. It's like it's funny how that profession is not that much different from being a rock star. Like how some rock or musicians they get to a certain level of fame and then they go to Vegas, right? And that's kind of like where they spend the rest of their later years and the later part of their career until they die. Is is that they go to Vegas, and it seems that when it comes to the celebrity chefs, they open a place in Vegas. They don't really stay there, of course. Half of them probably don't even go by those places unless it's for like real managerial to show your face or to show up or to do, checking on the quality of your food. But, from what, a lot of them, have places in Vegas. Um, let's see here. Penny Proud says lobster mac and cheese. Strange Fruit says I love him too. He gives proper respect to those who came before. All right. So speaking of the South, and I think I'm going to switch gears just a little bit here. Another show that I've been listening to for background noise at work while I'm doing the three projects that I'm working on. that is concentration uh intensive. So again, I let a TV show play in the background while I'm doing it. On Netflix, I've been trying to catch up on Anthony Bourdain's Parts of the Unknown. Now, I have a hate watch relationship when it comes to Anthony Bourdain. I think that when someone might be a little bit too much like you kind of hate their guts, especially if they're actually successful and you're just a nobody. But um, he gets really pretentious at times, and I think that towards the last 3 seasons of his Travel Channel show, which was called No Reservations, I just couldn't watch his. I couldn't watch his show at all. Then when he left Travel Channel, or they got rid of him, and he went to CNN, I couldn't really watch any of the first 2 seasons of that show. I thought it was just unwatchable. One, because I just felt like he was doing more of what he did before. Except this time it's more about travel. And the other thing was that, again, I can do without the literary references every other sentence. I could do without him showing us how much of a little art bitch boy he is. Like, I got enough friends of my own who are like that, and at times I could be that way. And I know there's times when my wife is like, "Shut up, please." So in other words, he got old for me, but I decided to catch up on this show. But by skipping the first 4 seasons, and I went into the last four, and I looked at the episode called Houston. That's in season 8, and that's the only show that they have of his. I'm sorry, that's the last season that they have of his from the CNN show, Parts Unknown, on Netflix. And the Houston show was so fucking good. Um, and I was sitting there going, "Damn, I really miss Houston." I was just reminded, because it's not like nothing really changed in that city that he covered that I hadn't seen or didn't know about. Um, people in New York and Los Angeles and San Francisco and Chirac, everybody will claim how diverse those cities are. And it's true, those cities are diverse. But Houston, as ugly as it looks, and it is fucking ugly looking. I've lived there since 1979. My mother moved us out there, um, with me, my sister, and I. We moved out there in the summer, I believe it was summer of 1979, spring of 79. And I lived there until my oldest daughter was born, and then we moved here to New York City, which is the city of my wife's my wife's hometown. But I lived in Houston for a huge chunk of my life. Teens all the way through adulthood, all the way to when I turned 30. And um, as much as I got bored with the city, as much as I couldn't stand the fact that the city was becoming incredibly polluted with all the goddamn, because strong car culture in that city. Despite the fact that I chose never to really drive in that city. As much as everyone says, "Oh, you need a car there," no, you really don't. As a matter of fact, if you don't use your city's mass transit, you're going to lose the mass transit. Believe me, because the car industry will do everything they can. Look what they did to Los Angeles. There's actual documentary. I talked about this in older videos of mine, and I think a couple of live streams. There's a documentary about the sort of lobbying that went on to take down Los Angeles's mass transit. I forgot the name of the documentary. I'm going to look it up so I can post it here in the low bar after I'm done with this live stream. But Houston's metro or mass transit is I think I rode the bus when we went out on vacation to visit back in 2009. That was the last time I was in Houston. No, actually, that wasn't the last time. Last time I was in Houston was in 2000. was in ooh, 20 was it 2013 or 2012? I think it was more like the summer of 2013. I went to Houston for my oldest niece's graduation from high school. I went to that. But either way, anyway, my point here is that they still have mass transit. I really wasn't even going to talk about all that. My point here is that the episode was really good. It covered the diversity. Um, as ugly as that city can be, full of nothing but strip malls, it's what's in the strip malls that matter. If you go to Hillcroft, they call that Little India. That place has the best Indian food. You want Asian, forget about it. Like Chinese is going to be there, Vietnamese, now Cambodia. You've got well, there's one thing that he covered that I didn't even know about, and that's the what's called the Vietnamese crawfish boil that they got. Like that's a new trend. So I wasn't there for that. But yeah, I've had Vietnamese food in so many different places. All of them were good. Mize, what we used to call drive-by mize, because uh, there was a time period back then when some Vietnamese gangs were beefing, and there was shootouts in front of mize and shit like that. Uh, I was a teenager around that time, but yeah, and so since then people would call it drive-by mize. But yeah, you can't beat the diversity in Houston in terms of other southern cities. It really is the most diverse and the most unique city ever. So people think of cowboys and horses and shit. Really, most of Texas is not really like that, unless you're talking about the country. And of course, if you're talking about rodeo, which is usually, I think, if Big J's still listening, he'll help me remember this. I believe rodeo happens in Houston like around late February. I can't really remember. And then the Black Cowboys would come in on the horses. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was a really good episode. And so if you ever want to visit Houston or you want to go, believe me, you're gonna enjoy it. If you're a foodie there, at least anyway. Um, let's go back to that chat. Oh yeah, we Strange Fruit was talking about L.A. What- let me see here. Pure Butterfly Spirit says, "Do you ever watch Globe Trekkers on PBS?" No, I haven't heard of that show. Straight, Pure Butterfly Spirit. I'll check it out. Um, Proud Penny says, "No." Pure Butterfly Spirit says, "She has a dirty essence." What? To me, Penny, but just don't like her. Don't think she's talented. Oh, I went to Celine Dion. Okay, they're talking about something else. Um, Someone named Hooded One has shown up. Hello, Hooded One. Welcome. Let's see. Strange Fruit says they ruined LA in the 40s, I think. Right. I think that's when the whole metro mass transit takedown began. Penny Proud says Houston is the party city, I heard. Yeah, it is. It's definitely a party city. If you're part of that culture, if you're into the club culture, the bar culture, then yeah, Houston is that. Um, let's see here. Uh, Strange Fruit says Houston for me is a stop to New Orleans. Yeah, I agree. A lot of people from New Orleans moved there too after Katrina. But it's not a that's nothing new either. One of the main reasons why you'll find a lot of Cajun and Creole food in Houston is because people from Louisiana have always moved to Houston, mainly for jobs and for work. So it's not uncommon that people who were Louisianans moved to Texas. Maybe a few Texans moved to Louisiana, but it's usually the other way around. Uh, but I think that you had a huge jump of Louisianans, particularly people from New Orleans, uh, who moved to Houston after Katrina. But that's all. Like I said, that's always happened. Uh, see, Pure Butterfly Spirit says, "I like Indian food. I love the spices." Strange Fruit says, "Best Indian food is in Mumbai. Second best is in Phuket, Thailand." That's interesting. But Strange Fruit, the thing about Southeast Asia, and then when you talk about India, is that they've always sort of overlapped. If you look at some of the spices and some of the food and things that they cook, there's always been an overlapping of those two, of foods in that region. So it's not unheard of that there are like curry dishes that you'll find in Thailand or Vietnam or Cambodia or Laos. Excuse me. Penny Proud says, "Pure Butterfly Spirit. You have to try Ethiopian beef tips with injera bread." Oh man, Penny Proud. Thank you for reminding me of another reason why Houston is so fucking awesome. Almost every first in my life has happened in Houston. I got into punk rock in Houston. I've had Ethiopian food for the first time in Houston. Matter of fact, in the neighborhood I lived in, we used to live in the Southwest Houston area, which was heavily actually Central American neighborhood at the time. But right down Bel Air Boulevard was a restaurant called Queen of Sheba's, and that's where I first tried Ethiopian food. Uh, let's see here. Strange Fruit says, "I love the Black Cowboys." Penny Proud says, "So try the veggie with injera bread." Right, because Pure Butterfly Spirit doesn't eat meat. Pure Butterfly Spirit says he eats it when he knows he's. I think she's talking about her dog. Uh, he eats it when he knows he's not going to get anything else. I guess what, vegetables? Ah, damn it! I went down too far. Sorry, guys, for the long moments of silence. Pure Butterfly Spirit says, "My friend was in Phuket." Am I pronouncing Phuket right, guys? I think it was Phuket, or is it? Yeah, I think it's Phuket. Um, my friend, my friend was in Phuket, Thailand. She had curry, and it was delicious, but it was spicy hot. Yeah, most food. I'm not really. I like Thai food. I only like the spicy dishes because most part it's usually always sweet. I'm not a fan of sweet foods. Um, Not really. Strange Fruit says, "I was in Phuket 3 to 4 times a year for work. Indian spice made my face water." Hooded One says, "What's up?" Hey, Hooded One, what's up? Again, Pure Butterfly Spirit says, "Haha, yeah, no beef for me, though I buy hamburger for my dog." Yep, okay. Uh, she says that puppy is spoiled. Pure Butterfly Spirit, that's what Penny says. Pure Butterfly Spirit says he didn't get anything. Ah, damn it. This thing went up again. All right. So I'm probably going to skip some of this because I keep. All right. He didn't get anything but dog food today. Let's see here. Let me see. Strange Fruit says Myanmar has all the seafood cultures it borders. Right. I've never been there. I would like to visit there. Everyone who's been there that I know says it's beautiful. Myanmar. Pure Butterfly Spirit says Ethiopian food is good, Garage. Yes, I think it's good. The injera bread takes some getting used to. And matter of fact, I'll be honest with you, to this damn day, I'm really not a fan of it. It's a little too spongy and wet for me. I'm not a fan of spongy wet. But then again, I'm not a huge fan in terms of West African. I don't like fufu. I never liked fufu. I never liked any of the forms of fufu. I don't like potato fufu. I've tried it. I've tried yam fufu. I've tried all the different fufus. Not a fan. Um, and don't get me wrong. I like to eat with my hands, but not a fan of it. And I don't like injera bread. It's just too spongy and wet. It just reminds me of if you took bread and made it wet. I, I got a thing about wet bread. It just kind of grosses me out a little bit. Um, Strange Fruit says, I like the coffee. It will keep you up for 3 days. Probably talking about Ethiopian coffee. Yeah. And they are some goddamn maniac coffee drinkers, boy. Let's see here. Let me scroll down some more. Okay. Strange Fruit is helping me out with pronouncing it. It's Phuket. Okay, got you. It's pronounced Phuket. Right, got you. Pure Butterfly Spirit says, can't wait to try it, Penny. Penny Proud says, that's who was cooking for me was an Ethiopian guy. Ah, the special cook she's talking about. Let's see here. Strange Fruit says, Northern Thai is amazing. It's less sweet. Okay. I'll keep that in mind. Strange Fruit says, uh, go soon. Myanmar is changing for the worst. Yep, I heard about that. It ain't cheap to do it like a human being. Phoenix is here. Hey, what's up, Phoenix? Hello, folks. Fufu, GA doing baby talk. Yeah. Yeah, just that's the term. It's sort of like you probably do know this, Phoenix. You just busting my chops. But yeah, fufu pronounced F-U, I mean sorry, spelled F-U-F-U. But fufu is basically sort of like the bread or bread staple or just um, the carb or starch stable of most uh, African stews and soups and things like that. You can either eat it separately. I've seen people pour their stews over the fufu and just eat the whole thing all together with their hands. But it is what it is. Um, Pure Butterfly Spirit says, Strange Fruit, have you tried curry fried rice balls with cilantro, basil, mint? Um, Penny Proud says, I don't like fufu. I'm not a fan of West African meat either. I don't blame the Nigerian nurse who asked for more soul food after getting a taste. Penny Proud says, I'm not a fan of Greek food either. Damn. Oh my God, Penny. Well, it is what it is. Everybody has their taste. And she says she's losing interest in Mexican food. I don't think that I can only say this about most Mexican food is that I I get surprised more and more with the different kinds of stuff that Mexicans actually cook and eat if you go outside of what is typically sold to us in public. So in other words, if you just have to explore a little bit more. Also, you got to look for different restaurants, Mexican restaurants that might be where the owner and the cooks are from a different kind of region. So you'll notice that the food is just going to be different. And so, but I know what you're saying, Penny. I think everybody's getting a little bored with the soft cheese casseroles or the tacos or the burritos or the fajitas of all different kinds. And yeah, but me, I love the what's it called, the chilate. That's the seafood soup. It's really good. So that's something that when I was younger, eating Mexican food, I never knew anything about. Penny Proud says Greek food is lacking something. That's interesting. Strange Fruit says Mexican food is beyond awful in Asia and Europe. Shit, I bet it is. Uh, Mexican food is horrible in any place that is not either in the West Coast or the South of the United States. That is just reality. Um, I do know of a young woman who's Mexican American. She's a chef, and I think she moved to like Holland or some shit like that. So I probably, if I had to eat Mexican food in Europe, it would be her restaurant because I know what she does there. I would eat her food, but I wouldn't go anywhere else for Mexican. I barely tolerate Mexican restaurants here in New York, man. I mean, you have to have a sense of where you're going in New York City, in terms of who's going to be cooking the food and who owns the place, because you can wind up with some shitty Mexican food. I mean, first of all, here in New York, whatever you do, if it's a quick, fast Mexican place, do not go. Why? Because it's going to be owned by Koreans and they'll have Mexicans cooking the food, but these are guys who just want to have a job. So they're not going to be back there really cooking decent Mexican food. Believe me, you again, you have to be real careful about Mexican food in New York City. Let's see. Pure Butterfly Spirit says, I thought I would get the best Mexican food in New Mexico, but it was garbage and the restaurants were owned by white people. Yep. And their versions of Mexican food was bland. When we lived in Santa Fe, uh, Pure Butterfly Spirit, when I was a kid, I don't really remember eating a lot of good Mexican food my damn self. But my mother wasn't really a fan of Mexican food herself. So obviously we didn't really have a lot of it. I just remember those nice big roasted green chilies that people were all roasting in their backyards. I thought that that was really good. I know there's a famous restaurant there that serves those chilies on the burgers, but that's about it. Let me see. Penny Proud says, Garage, have you had a mango lassi before? No. What is that? You're going to have to tell me what that is. Penny Proud says she's laughing at Butterfly. Phoenix says, Phoenix, you always coming in here trolling. Phoenix says, I like crackers and cheese whiz. Well, look, I don't judge. You know that, Phoenix. First of all, I every now and then when I really feel like just eating some shit like that, it's yeah, cracker and cheese whiz. It is. Uh, let's see here. Strange Fruit says, is she in Utrecht? Strange Fruit says, because that was the decent. Barely, I don't know what she's talking about. Strange Fruit in Asia, it's expensive. Penny Proud says Koreans don't play. Yep, Koreans don't play. And it's funny. I don't know if it's because they are so highly competitive. I do know that we do have a Koreatown in New York City. And I think that for you to try to open up a new Korean place in New York City, you're going to be shit out of luck. Because if you're not part of the original families that run Koreatown and Koreatown restaurants, you might as well hang it up. That's what I heard. Let's see. Pure Butterfly Spirit says my ex husband went to that school in New York City. Um, Vegas has great Mexican food restaurants owned by Mexican authentic food. Yeah, okay, that sounds about right. Penny Proud says that mango lassi are an Indian drink. Oh, okay. Penny Proud. Oh, look, wow, I'm actually caught up in the chat. Can't believe it. Butterfly in Texas, a lot of Asians own Mexican restaurants. Really? I didn't know that either. Okay. Well, y'all, I think that I'm going to have to end this. I can't believe that I talked about one topic I was supposed to get on. I was going to supposed to actually talk a little bit about uh Stephen Clark's tweets, but I did say that actually I wanted to. That video was actually supposed to talk about that already. I ain't a troll. Take that back. No, Phoenix, you're not a troll. You would just come. You just like to come in here and bust chops. Sometimes, not all the time. Of course, you know that. You're a huge contributor to the discussion always. Pure Butterfly Spirit says, I'm scared to eat at Korean restaurants. Hmm. Strange Fruit says, this was more fun. Yeah, thank you, Strange Fruit. Because I think I said all I needed to say about Stefan, you know? But me talking about food with you guys was fucking fun as shit. I'm gonna probably change this the title of this a little bit more. So I want to thank you all for coming, but I am gonna go ahead and hit the bed at this point. And this was a good time. This is a good open mic. I'm gonna do another one next week. I thought about talking about what did I want to talk about? I might do it. I might talk about the 99-cent store pro blacks or the so-called pro blacks of YouTube. Um, but I'm not going to probably do a whole show about them. I'm probably just going to talk about them for a little bit. And I'm going to have some really good talking points about them. All right. So thank you all so much for coming. I'm going to go ahead and end it, but this was fun. I could talk about food for 2 hours straight. I can definitely love to hear from people talking about travel. Hopefully, if I can get Strange Fruit to come on live, I would love for Strange Fruit to talk um, about Strange Fruit's travels. And yeah, that would be a good show in and of itself. All right. So I'll see you all later. Thank you so much. I want to thank Pure Butterfly Spirit, Strange Fruit, Penny Proud, Hooded One. I want to thank Phoenix. I want to thank Jenny. I think she popped her hand in a little earlier, but maybe she was just listening. And I will see you all later. Peace. This is the Garage Autonomist.